As I read our passage for today, I was so amazingly and truly struck with the call and cost of discipleship, for that's what this passage is about. I hope and pray as you listen today, you will think about your own response when Jesus says to you, "Follow me." Now, what does being a disciple look like? Our gospel begins with, when the days drew near for him to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. We are seeing Jesus' single-minded resolve to finish the mission and the purpose for his coming into the world. He knows the time has come for him to be rejected, to suffer, to be crucified, to die on a cross. His hour has come, and he begins this final journey. His intent, in the words from his cross, it is finished. His motive, salvation, victory over sin and death, and new birth for all who are his disciples. Now, the hard and difficult words of Jesus in the stories of this passage first let us know, number one, the immensity of his love as he sets his face to go to Jerusalem. And they are also an invitation to disciples to follow him. We are given much to think about if we are to call ourselves his disciples. When Jesus says, "Follow me," do we really know who he is? Do we understand what it means, what it will mean to follow him? Do we follow, or do we say, "But first let me," meaning, I'll follow after you after I get this done. This needs to be taken care of. That needs my attention. This is where my focus needs to be. But first, let me. And sometimes it comes with, "Wait a minute, Lord. This is not what I signed up for. This is getting just a little too hard. But first," I believe it is important to note the conversations in our passage today come between two other passages where Jesus is sending his disciples out. The first is in this passage exactly, Jesus sending his disciples to a Samaritan village. And the second is right after our passage. Jesus sends out the two. It is in between these two passages of sending out the disciples that the three conversations happened. And the three conversations happen with the disciples or with people that are following him that are seemingly committed and devoted. After approaching him on their own, we find that Jesus challenges their discipleship. Please understand, the seemingly harsh words of Jesus truly are not cold-hearted and harsh. We will see Jesus is challenging the discipleship of these three men, and we must also see he is challenging each of us today in our discipleship. Each of these three had been following him. They have seen him, they have heard him, they have known his teaching, they have witnessed the miracles, They have traveled with him night and day. They have seen and heard everything. These three were a part of that crowd that constantly surrounded him and that followed him wherever he went. Now, something has changed. Something is different. Jesus has set his eyes on Jerusalem, and as he faces what awaits him there, he knows the disciples that follow him will also face the trials ahead. We see these three approach Jesus one-on-one to say, I will follow you, but first. Jesus is quite aware of their true intention. They have a hidden agenda. As they approach him, he challenges them, their commitment to follow him to the cross. They say, but first let me, then I will follow you. Now make no mistake, to follow him as a disciple means to take up our cross daily to follow him. Jesus says to all disciples, follow me, and to follow him means we will also be rejected. We will be despised. We may even be persecuted. It means the cross. The cross is not some lovely wooden piece that we put on a wall. The cross was wooden. It was heavy. He was nailed to the cross. The cross is death. We need to get that. As disciples, we need to ask ourselves, how will we respond? Will we follow? Will we follow? Or will we say, but first let me, whatever it is. Jesus gets right to the heart of the first man in our story, who is having second thoughts by challenging the values by which that man lives. The man says, I'll follow you wherever you go. And Jesus says, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Jesus is saying, do you really know who I am? And do you know why you follow me? Jesus is saying to him and to us, this world is not my home, and it cannot be yours if you follow me. To be my disciple is not about success and comfort. It is not about status and influence. It is not about getting settled and getting secure and getting all our ducks in a row. It is not avoiding suffering and hurt. The challenge Jesus issues is this: think beyond what you see and hear. Think beyond what you desire and what you know in this world. To follow him means more than thinking the right thoughts or following simply because of what he does. Discipleship is about living a life devoted to the glory of God by the power of the Holy Spirit to conform and to shape us more and more and more into the image of Christ. Discipleship means we will never be comfortable in this world. The more we pursue righteousness, holiness, obedience, the more our faith grows. We come to know him, really know him. We will live in this world, but we won't be of this world. Again, make no mistake, when Jesus says, the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head, it means that as we become conformed and shaped, as we become more like him, this world is not our home. We are not our own. We belong to him. As a disciple doesn't fit Jesus into and around their busy schedule, tucking him in there and tucking him in there and saying, okay, I'll have time over here. It is not about fitting Jesus into our planned and ordered life. A disciple must choose him first. So we need to ask ourselves, do we know? Do we know who it is that we are following? Are we willing to choose him, live for him, and love him more than anyone or anything else, meaning our wives, our husbands, our children, our family? Love him more than those. The second conversation, this man says, I will follow you, but first let me go and bury my father. And Jesus replies, let the dead bury their own dead. But you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. We need to understand here, the motive and intent of this man had nothing to do with burying his father. Number one, he's been a part of Jesus' entourage from the beginning. So how does he even know his father has died? Secondly, if he did get word that his father had died, their tradition was to bury the dead the same day they die. There was no way for this man to get back to bury his father. Following Jesus was getting more difficult, and he was wavering. So Jesus, even though the words sound harsh, really is getting to the heart of this man's pretense, challenging his excuse and his subterfuge. As a disciple, there will always be the next situation, the next circumstance, the next crisis that will test us or tempt us to stray away from the path of righteousness. We don't live unscathed. We don't live untouched. The world, Satan, and self are three active enemies that will constantly attack, testing our commitment, our resolve as disciples to follow Jesus. These are the times that will be really hard. These are the times that may even seem impossible. Will we let those times erode our discipleship until finally we turn back? Or will we, with resolute resolve, stay the course, saying, I will follow you, no turning back, no turning back. Discipleship will always challenge what we believe deserves our time and our attention and our focus, what we feel is important or necessary, and why we would say, but first, let me deal with my family. Lord, let me go and deal with my family. Lord, I need to focus on my job. Lord, I need to take care of this problem first. Let me get to where I want to be. Then I will follow you. Being a disciple means Jesus, his mission, his ministry, his call comes first. And lastly, we see the third man coming up to Jesus, and he says, Lord, I'll follow you, but first, let me go say farewell to those at my home. And Jesus says, no one puts their hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Keep in mind, this man, like the other two, has been following him all this time. Why hasn't he already said goodbye or farewell to his family? Again, this is an excuse, plausible maybe. Jesus is saying to him, being my disciple is setting your eyes on me, looking forward, not back. As Jesus set his eyes on Jerusalem, a disciple sets his eyes on Jesus. As a disciple, how often have we responded with, but first, let me? I'll be honest with you. I have. I have done it. I know what that's like. I know the lure of, let me take care of this first. The but first puts conditions on the unconditional. Being a disciple is hard at times. The cost of discipleship sometimes is very high. In the hard sayings today, we know and understand he calls us to kingdom values, not worldly values. We are in the world, but called to not be of the world. Our values, our priorities are kingdom-minded. It is very true. He calls his disciples into hard places. He calls his disciple into places of hard decisions. He calls his disciples into a place of loss. And he calls us in it all, through it all, to set our eyes on him, looking forward, not looking back. Living a life of discipleship, we can ask the question, is or does Jesus expect perfection? We might read these stories and think that. I can tell you the answer is no. He expects the inner commitment. He expects the devotion of our heart to be fixed on him. Jesus is showing us that single-minded discipleship really isn't about doing it perfectly, but it is without condition. Being a disciple, we cling to Jesus in spite of and regardless of any situation, any circumstance, or any crisis. We set our eyes on him. We cling to him. You are my life. Where else can I go for love, for hope, for joy? Where else can I go for healing? Where else can I go for purpose? We make the decision to follow him daily, over and over again. Jesus is a God of grace and mercy. He knows we will fall short. He knows that there are those times we will fail, and he will always, always be right there to say, follow me, follow me. Being a disciple means that we learn to cast ourselves upon his mercy, upon his grace, because he is a God with a perfect mission, and he is a God with perfect mercy that abounds for you. Now, today and tomorrow and into this week, I want you to take some time to stop and to listen to the one who's calling to you, the one who is rich in mercy, the one who has a mission and a purpose for your life, to love him with heart, mind, soul, strength, and to love your neighbor like he loves us. Think about it. Meditate on it. Let him reveal those places where you've responded. But first, discipleship is not a one-time call, done. That isn't it. Discipleship is listening to Jesus say, "Follow me," and then to follow him faithfully, obediently, giving your life to him that he can give you life abundant. And that invitation comes over and over and over again in three simple words. Come, follow me. Amen.